Programming, coding, you've heard these terms a lot, but what exactly do they mean? Hi, my name is Catherine, and today I'm going to show you what it actually means to program, to be a programmer, to be a software developer, to be a coder. All of those things, they're basically the same thing. It means you're writing code for the computer, you're writing instructions for the computer to do something. For example, you could build something that adds numbers, something fairly simple, or you could build something more complicated with machine learning and detecting images and photos, or you could build a website, or you could build an Alexa skill, which is, if you have that Amazon Echo, apps for that, or apps for your mobile, or apps for the web, whatever you want to build. You can build so much stuff, and there's a bunch of different languages and a bunch of different things, but in this video I'm going to be showing you the basics of what it means to be a programmer, what it means to write code. And we'll do it in a couple different languages so you can get an idea of what I mean. So let's just jump in, I'll show you exactly how it works. Alright, so what are we going to code? The first thing we're going to code is a web application, a website, something for the internet, for the web. To do this, we have to download some tools first. We can't just jump right into the code. Oftentimes, you'll need tools in order to be able to write that code. Just like you'd use Photoshop to edit a photo or some other photo editing software, you have to download Photoshop in order to be able to edit your photo. So there's a couple things we're going to download in order to edit and write our code. The first thing we're going to do is download something called a text editor. And it's going to be from Sublime Text. This is just a plain text editor. Another example of this is Notepad. So if you just go Notes on Mac or Notepad++, I think it is on Windows, you can go ahead and grab that as an alternative. But you'll see the perks to having a text editor right now. So go to this website, download this thing. We're going to use it to write code, write instructions that the computer will run in order to do whatever we tell it to do, because that's what we get to do as programmers. So, download this. Once you've downloaded it, you'll be able to go Sublime Text, you'll be able to find it once it's all installed, and something similar to this should pop up. Now, what are we going to write in this? Here's our tool, we have Sublime Text. We don't have code yet. We have to write code in order for anything to happen. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to write something called HTML code, and this is hypertext markup language. Essentially what this is going to do is it's going to tell our computer what to display on a website. So we could just go like h1 hello, and these are just opening and closing header tags that are saying, hey, make this text really big, and we'll save this. This will be like a index.html. This is a typical naming convention for a file in the web. Oh, look at that, how beautiful. It turned our H's into little, they made them pink, which is great. And that's one of the perks of downloading a code-specific text editor, is that you get little perks like that. And it's because we have this little HTML thing at the bottom. If we were programming in other languages, we could pick up, whichever one we want, and it would give us extra tools for that given language, etc. So great, we have our code here. It says hello, and let's just make that hello world. And we'll save that. There it is. This is great. We have our code file. How do we even do anything with it? Well, we are going to drag it into our browser. And there it is. It says hello world. That's one type of coding. Let's do something else. So that's like, oh, I made this for the web. And there's a bunch of other tools you can use. We can drag and drop again. We can even edit this file. And we might need to drag it into Sublime. We could just say, hello, my name's Catherine. So we'll do that, and then drag it back in to Google Chrome. Now it says, hello, Catherine. There are a bunch of different tools and languages that you can use to basically make this look a lot better. We won't be diving into that because we are on the basics. So let's go ahead and build something else. That's one type of coding, and that's probably the one you're most familiar with. But what about something else? Let's jump into Sublime again, but this time we're not going to be writing HTML code. We're going to be writing with Python code. Python is another programming language, and it gives you a little bit more power than your plain HTML does. You can actually compute things, and it's used in machine learning and artificial intelligence and a lot of other mathematical and scientific fields, so it's kind of important to know. Let's just do something simple without jumping into anything way too crazy. The first thing that we're going to do in Python is that we're going to do something similar to what we did in HTML. We're just going to print something out to our console. We'll say print, and we'll just say hi, you know. So essentially what we're doing here is we're saying print or display to the console, display to our window. Console is kind of like a window, which you'll see in a second. Display hi. All right. Let's save that. We'll go hello.py. Notice we have the py extension here instead of HTML. That's because this is in a Python file. Save that to the desktop. Ah, beautiful. Look at that code. Look at that color coding. All right. We have this Python file. Of course, the code means nothing unless we run it. We executed it. With HTML, it works a little bit differently, but we dragged it into our Google Chrome, and that's how we could see what it does. For the hello.py, we have to actually execute this code. So we open something called the terminal, and this is a crazy magical tool that you all have on your computers. Essentially what you do is, I'm making the text bigger, but you can use, it might be called the terminal. If terminal is not coming up, then it might be command line. And we're going to do a couple cool things in our command line. What are we going to do? Well, essentially what the command line is, like I said before, magical tool. And why is it so magical? Well, essentially it's a text interface, and it's something that's used in a lot of programming or software development. It's another tool. If you thought of Sublime as a tool, that was our text editor. It's a tool to help us execute or run our code, so show what our code does. And it's a tool we can use to navigate files. It's essentially another way to interact with our code. This can seem pretty intimidating at first because it is in fact what like all of the hackers use in their movies. If you've seen any like Mr. Robot, they're using this thing. All of those hacker movies that, you know what I'm talking, you know. They're using the terminal because it looks pretty cool and it looks like, you know, something that's super intimidating and crazy that you can't figure it out, but today you're going to be using it. What it is, okay, so if you think of, this is a GUI right here. It's a graphical user interface. I can click, I can drag. This is the big thing that made Apple like crazy popular. It was the first thing. I'm pretty sure they were the first company to implement this versus this. This was the original, essentially. It was a text interface. So this has graphics. It's so pretty. We can just drag and drop things. Here, we have to do it all with text, and this can come with pros and cons. So essentially what this means is, like over here is my graphical. This is all graphical. I can click and drag and copy things. I can do, you know, we can open that by clicking on it, all of that good stuff. In the terminal, if I want to see what folders I have to actually write a command. I have to tell the computer via text, not click and drag, what to do. So here I wrote ls. If you're in Windows, I think it's dir, dir. And I can see everything I have in this home folder, and that's the equivalent of this folder right here. So I have a desktop, I have downloads, I have all this good stuff here, and if I want to see these, you see these hidden files or whatever, to get access to those, we go ls-a. It's different on Windows, but that's going to give you all of that good stuff. So that's like, what? Okay, but that's not all. We can actually go into one of these folders and say we have this desktop folder, this downloads folder, all of that, and we can go into that folder and then see what components are in that. So we can go like cd desktop, ls, we can see those components as well. Now we can actually use our computer to run code files. However, before we get too deep into this, we need to download Python 3. So you can just Google Python 3 and choose one of the first things that comes up. So download Python. And you'll want to make sure to download the 3.7.1 version or anything that starts with a 3. There is a version that's like 2.7, and there are reasons to use that. We won't go into those right now, but this is the latest version. So whatever your latest version is, maybe it's higher than this, that's okay. Go ahead and download it. For what we're doing, it shouldn't really matter how new your version is. Once you've installed all this, you're ready to go. So what I can do is I can write Python hello.py, hit enter, and it gives me that hi in the console. Beautiful. And that's what we told it to do, because remember our code file, which is not that. Because remember our code file, we told it to print hi to the display. And it's trying to figure out, it's freaking out because I deleted Xcode because it has too much memory. So we'll download this into Sublime. And we see right here, we told it to print hi to some display that it has access to. And in this case, it was our terminal window, which says hi. We could change this to, again, hi cat, save that file. Essentially, we can press the up button, so the up arrow key on your dashboard to get access to that last command. So we call each thing that we input that does something a command. So this whole thing right here, it's not programming, it's a tool that helps us run our code. So this is getting us access to our files. It's not a programming language. This is just how we can run our files. And there's a certain schema associated with that. So printing things is great, but what about adding things? Well, we could say print 2 plus 3. Save that. We get 5 in our console because 2 plus 3 is 5. That is coding. You just learned how to code. This is the basics, the pure basics of what it means to be a software developer. Essentially, you're just writing little commands over here, and then you can run them in your terminal, in this thing, and see what they do. This, again, it's super basic, but it's the general idea of what it means to be a programmer and what it means to program. You're writing code over here, and then you run it in some other program. You execute that code. Sometimes executing that code is done automatically, not always. Sometimes it's someone literally pushing a button to run the code. It just depends on your use case. So I hope you know what programming means now and what it means to be a coder or a software developer on the most basic level. Obviously, this isn't everything you need to know, but hopefully this lets you know exactly what a software developer kind of does, what they do on a daily basis. It's just writing code that then is run by the computer, executed by the computer, because code alone doesn't do anything. You have to actually give it to the computer to execute, and then seeing what the output is, and then basically changing the program and tweaking it to whatever you want that output to be. Thank you so much for watching.